It's not the market's crashing, the industry's crashing.
Hear it frequently from a small amount of the population that's probably hoping that the market's going to crash, but they're like, it's not sustainable. These prices aren't affordable. Like, it's going to crash.
Well, I think that it's not going to crash. What is crashing is our ability to build. So it's not that the prices are going to come way, way down because the cost of delivery hasn't come way, way down. You're not going to flood the market and lose money. Why would you do that? Why would you build a bunch of buildings when it's costing you $1,000 a square foot to build, but people can only afford $850 a square foot? It doesn't make sense. It's not the market's crashing, the industry's crashing.
When was the writing on the wall? Like, hindsight, what year was this kind of developing where people were like, okay, this is a serious problem?
2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when we started saying, look, incomes are at this level and it's now costing us this to build. And it was 2 or 3 years ago when projects had been launched or sales had been started and construction costs during COVID started to go up like this. And those buildings, they sold at this level, 2021 level, and they're building at 2023 prices. And it doesn't work. And so we've seen foreclosures, seen companies go under, buildings that aren't getting finished, buildings that aren't going ahead, buildings that have started, maybe digging a hole and have stopped.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, I see cranes in the air. Well, yeah, those were cranes of projects that were sold 3 years ago, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they got their building permit and then they started construction. And those projects may or may not be underwater depending on what they sold for and what contracts that they had in place for construction costs. The ones that are midway, the big companies are able to hold on. One developer I know well, speaking with him last week, he said like 25 to 30% of people are not closing on the project. So he's going to have 30% of his units. He's going to have to pay GST on those. He's going to get the deposit back, but the deposit's a fraction of what it cost him. And he's going to try to sell them in this market. And people just can't afford that because interest rates went up. They lost their job. And so people are, backing out on their purchases.
We're seeing that as well.